This episode is brought to you by Watchman Cigars, Operation Decisive Victory, Webmerized, and this week is brought to you by Free Lunch Coffee. Let me get the right page.
Pretty good.
Doing here at Southern Fried Philosophy. You know, we have a heart for people and their stories. Another group of folks that have that same heart is our friends at Free Lunch Coffee. They have a heart where no child will go to bed hungry. To do this, they are selling some of the world's best coffee to you and giving 50% back to make that happen. You get a delicious cup of coffee and they get to help a child eat. What better way to start your day knowing that you are helping change the world? When you buy just one bag of Free Lunch Coffee, you're also providing 10 meals to children in need. Their coffee is specialty grade, certified organic, and fair trade. They offer a 100% money guarantee for 30 days. If you don't absolutely love their coffee, they will give you a full refund and you get to keep the coffee. Free Lunch Coffee is offering a 10% discount to the loyal listeners of this podcast. Use coupon code Southern Fried at checkout. Check out at freelunchcoffee.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast, where it is our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy. And you, the listener, are invited to come on the front porch, grab a beverage, and set a spell. We've got a great show lined up for you as always. But before we begin, let me introduce you to our starting lineup. Producer Brian is manning the control panel. Say, what's up?
Hey, guys.
Oh, that's anticlimactic.
Sorry. What up? Is that better?
That's much better. Magic Man, a.k.a. Ryan, is running the Facebook Live and the YouTube Live and manning the chat.
Hey, everybody.
And we have our special guest, Dewan Kirst. He is going to be with us the entire show. We'll talk to him throughout the show, but we'll bring him in and interview him a little bit later. Say what's up, Dewan.
Hello, my good fellows.
Oh, sneaking in that little accent. I like it. Hey guys, this may be the first time listening to the show. I hope not, but if it is, what is this about? It's our take on life, liberty, and the pursuit of gravy, just kind of the stuff that we like to talk about. We're sitting on the front porch. You guys are joining us. We're talking about our philosophies, things that are going on in our lives, some crazy stories, and things that make us laugh and giggle, and also things that fill our stomachs. So we like to talk about food as well. But hey, listen, we may not always agree, but at the end of the day, we'll love each other and we will respect each other. So producer Brian, where can people find the show at?
Yes, you can find us on all of your favorite podcast places, our social media. We are on, Instagram at SFP Radio, Twitter at SFP Radio, Facebook at Southern Fried Philosophy. You can always email us at sfpradio@gmail.com. And again, we are on all of the major podcast platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's another one. What's the other big one? TuneIn
app. Yep.
There's probably more. There's like 50 different podcast
apps
right now.
And we don't have a huge advertising budget. So what we need you guys to do is to go to YouTube and subscribe. I know if we got everybody that listens to the show, just do it now. Listen, we're not even going to start the show until you go to YouTube/SFP Radio, hit subscribe, and then be, subscribed to the show. You'll get notifications that we're on, we're doing a show, but also it helps us go up in the rankings so that we can, do some other things, get the official YouTube/SFP Radio logo thing. Producer Brian, is that right?
Yeah, that sounds
something
right.
like that.
Something like that. It does something really important. You're not a real YouTuber until you get 100. I think
at least 100. So yeah. I know for a fact that there's 100 people that listen to the show. So just go now, subscribe. That's all we need you to do. Yeah, also, we need you to tell people about the show. Yeah, that would be helpful as well.
If you get us that number, we can actually put some content on there, like make some things.
That would be fantastic. Bourbon reviews.
It's motivation for us to do more things. That's what I think.
Oh yeah, we're not going to do nothing until you subscribe.
Right. We're going to do the rest of the show until you subscribe. So,
speaking of, if you want to be a show sponsor, we've got plenty of room now. So if you would like to be a sponsor, just email us at sfpradio@gmail.com and we'll promote your business and we'll love you. And, we'll give you a fun little logo at the beginning and all that fun stuff. So speaking of sponsors, by the way, producer Brian, you got your free lunch coffee this past week.
Yes.
How did you like it?
Well, I opened it, I think yesterday afternoon.
Mhm.
Because I had sampled yours.
Right.
And I got a different product, I think, than you did.
We got a bad batch. And I told Vin, hey, we got a bad batch. And he immediately said, we're sorry. Let me send you a new one. And you got the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I got mine today. Holy crap, that stuff is good.
Way different experience.
Way different. It is
Right?
legit coffee.
Color in the bag. I think you had a hole in your bag or something.
There,
got some
I think,
air
yeah.
in there because it was
something
like
happened.
It was the wrong color for good coffee,
Right. So I was shocked. I was like, and I wasn't, on the review, I was like, it's good coffee. It's better than Waffle House. But this stuff is legit. It's really, really good. So
this is way better than Waffle House. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So do yourself a favor and ourselves a favor and 10 kids a favor and order a bag. Use promo code Southern Fried. Next week, we'll have Peggy No Stevens. She's the first female bourbon master taster, the author of, get this, I love this, the title of this book, Which Fork Do I Use with My Bourbon?
Oh,
that sounds fancy, right?
I don't have any forks.
There's no forks. But it's like a how-to have like a cocktail party and a tasting and all that kind of stuff, like a step-by-step from the invitations to like the tasting notes and all that fun stuff. It's a really cool book. But she's going to be on the show next week. Guys, listeners, heads up. We still need you. North Dakota, Alaska, and Vermont. We are coast to coast. We literally go from California to North Carolina, but we're missing those 3 states. So if you know anybody in North Dakota, Alaska, or Vermont, please tag them and make them listen to the show. We just want to fill in the little thing. So that'd be nice. I'm going to ask you, like I ask you guys every week, how you be doing? I'm going to go to you, Ryan, Magic Man.
Sorry, I wasn't sure you want to start off with. Hey, I'm doing just fine. Doing great.
Yeah. Have a good week this week. A little bit better.
It's, this week's been a challenge, but making it. So I'm not going to complain.
Dewan, how you doing, man?
I am actually doing great. I have a very simple perspective in life. Every day I wake up is a good day.
That's good. That's perspective there. Producer Brian?
Changes everything. The way you think about when you get started, right?
Yeah.
Oh. I usually do, like, before I get out of bed, like a self-evaluation. What part of my body did I hurt when I went to go to sleep when I slept last night? Yeah. Did I like pull a hammy? Did I pull my back? What did I do? I'm getting old. Producer Brian, what about you?
Well, I'm good. I think I'm doing better than I was last week. I'm noticing my old man sounds a little less. Apparently today in Charlotte anyway was the 100th day of school. And I think they miscounted because it feels like the 1,000th day of school. Like since August. It's like every day we're still doing this. It's not over yet. This whole pandemic thing has changed our perception of time. Like I can understand it's end of January 2021 and it still feels like August 2020 or something. Right? It's not over yet, right?
So what's the deal now officially on school? What's going on there? Are the kids back in school?
They keep changing their mind. The governor keeps pushing things back and the school board's making changes. Like I don't know. They're still Charlotte is still offering remote and in person. I think you said like your Concord went full.
I think so.
School,
yeah,
right?
I think they're back to in person.
They're just like, screw it, send them all back, right?
Right.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. How you been doing?
Well, speaking of nuts.
Uh-oh.
So I had to go get a physical to relicense for foster care. It's kind of a rule. Every time you got to get a relicense, got to get a physical. So I had a new doctor that I had to try out. And, we're running all the tests. She's new to me, not new to the thing, but new to me. So we're kind of getting to know each other. Do what?
Not new to medicine, right?
Not new to medicine, just new to me. So we're trying to get to know each other. She
Sorry.
doing some romantic. Well, probably need that a
I meant to
little
hit
bit.
this one.
What are you doing on the sounds, buddy?
Said you get to know each other. Is this the wrong song for that?
No, this is probably the right one.
Okay. All right, just checking.
So I had to do some tests and get stuff done. And you go back and forth like, oh, get your test, get your blood work, then come back in, you do the follow-up, whatnot. We're getting to know each other a little bit better and, yucking it up and whatnot, having a good time. And then she asked me the question like, hey, everything else looking good, like feeling good. How's your pee? And I was like, as a matter of fact that you bring that up, I'm getting older. Producer Ryan, you talked about how you felt like you were getting older, making old man so it sounds. Mm-hmm. And so I said, to be honest with you, I feel like I do like a start, I get done and I go back to bed in the middle of the night and I got to go again. She's like, oh, is it? And then she started asking me 40 questions on, tell me more about that. All right. So, did that. She gets a blank piece of paper, flips it upside down and said, well, here's the deal. Here's what's happening. You've got at some point, for some reason, your prostate is pushing down on your urinary tract. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, could just be slightly enlarged. Could be swollen. No big deal. That happens. Could be diet, fix it with diet, whatnot. Two, you could have nodes on it, and that's pushing it down, and that's something to be cause for concern. Or three, prostate cancer. Whoa, what? It's like, uh-oh, the C word just got thrown out. I ain't having that. And part of it is because I've been really sensitive because one of our friends of the show, he struggled with kidney stones. And I'm like, I do not want kidney stones. Nope. And she brought that up too. Like it could be a kidney stone. Ooh, I did not want that. So then she asked the uncomfortable question, do you trust me? What do you say to that? I'm like, I trust you, but I was like, well, tell me what's going on. She goes, I've looked at your file. You're 43 years old and you've never had a DRE. I said, ma'am, I'm 43 years old. I've listened to a lot of Dr. Dre. Right. I don't know what you're talking about. Right. Are you familiar with the term DRE, by the way? Anybody? Raise your anybody?
I'm with you. I'm with,
Thinking do not reach end.
me neither.
You're very close, by the way. I'm going to handle this with kid gloves as best I can. It is.
Did they use a glove?
Yes, sir. It is the digital rectal exam.
Digital. Oh,
digital.
I've had the analog, not the digital.
And that's my point. That's right. Are you doing a probe? Like what's going on? Is there some way that you could do it without the finger? And then she's like, no, smarty pants, the digit. Oh. Digital rectal exam. You guys are getting at that age. Show of hands, how many have gone through that yet?
A long time ago.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And I'm older than y'all too.
Buy me a steak dinner. You had to buy me a steak dinner first.
Yeah.
So the terror comes in my mind like, oh my gosh, like she's going to put her finger up my butt. And I'm trying to keep it PG-13 maybe. And she's like, if you trust me, we need to do this. And I'm like, I get it, but can we push this off maybe a week? Because I haven't, you just get up, it's early in the morning. I didn't take a shower. You got to make sure that the area is ready to go. Like if you're going to have that taken care of, you got to make sure things are good. So she's like, yeah, we'll push it back the whole week. And so every day that goes by, I get more and more scared and I freak myself out.
Buy some Axe body spray or something.
Oh yeah. Like there's Axe body spray. There's like 15 showers. The bidet was great for that too, by the way.
Yeah.
man, that was great.
Clutch.
I'm having the wife check, make sure like there's no skid marks in my butt, like all kinds of stuff, right? And so it's probably Wednesday or so, and I can email the doctor and whatnot. And my go-to is when I get nervous, I go comedy. So I'm emailing and I said, hey, by the way, I'm out running errands. If you need me to stop by Tractor Supply and get those gloves that go all the way up to your elbow, yeah, I can stop by.
Whatever.
Yep. I can get some of those. Now keep in mind, I need you on that Friday to wear clothes that you can burn because, you probably want to do that. And then afterwards, skip arm day because there's a lot of stuff back there. And that was my biggest concern is most of the time she's seen me, I'm sitting down, right? She doesn't understand, as per my wife says, I've got a juicy booty. Like there's some junk in my trunk. So you're going to have to work this thing. Skip arm day because you're going to need every ounce of energy you're going to need to do this. So, yucking it up, trying to be all funny. And then Friday comes and y'all, I'm so nervous at this point. Like I try to even make the excuse like, hey, the aliens came last night. They probed me. They said everything's good. We're okay. We don't have to do this. She said, Miss Pat, no, we're doing this. Do you want the nurse to come in to chaperone? I said, absolutely not. The last thing I need is more people in this room. Like, no, absolutely not. So she's like, and I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. She's like, all right, stand up on the little table, like the little seat that's got the paper on it, the crinkly paper, turn around and just bend over, lay on this thing, and I'll take care of the rest. Say, close your eyes. You're in for a surprise. Here we go. So I, get ready, assume the position, crinkle the paper as in my hands because I'm so nervous. I feel the left
like a bit to bite on or something.
They should have.
Yeah,
That would have been great. Maybe the tongue suppressors. I get 20 of those.
Yeah.
I feel my left butt cheek separate from the right, and in my head, oh dear God, here it comes. My life is flashing before my eyes at this point. I'm seeing the small batch, I'm walking her down the aisle, things, it's going nuts. And then I feel it, what I like to call the insertion. At that point, I scream literally as loud as I can, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, how long are you going to be in here? You digging for gold? What is going on? And she did not think that was quite funny. I don't think. I do know for a fact that the other patients did not find that funny. And I feel the anti-insertion, I feel that the rejection come in, and then the snap of the rubber gloves. I turn around and she looked at me like nonchalantly and said, no, you're good. Like all this build up to no, you're good.
Wow.
So that was the life-changing experience that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Is it a little traumatic?
And I asked her, I was like, all right, so at this point, who's going to hold me? We're going to cuddle. I'm the little spoon, by the way.
I've had the similar, I've not for the same reasons, but I've had what was the word? DRE?
The DRE.
I've had the DRE.
The DRE.
And the preamble my doctor was a little Asian man. He said, bend over, say, ah. That was all we got.
Wow.
And he waited forever to get there, to get in the room.
Mm.
I think it was because they were clearing out the other rooms.
That's probably a good call.
Because of the sound that was about to happen.
You knew better. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That was about it.
Yeah. That's basically what happens. Uncontrollable noises.
I was so worried, poop was going to be flying out of the room. Or like I was going to fart or something. Like I was so concerned. I was like, just don't fart. Just hold it in as much as you can.
Oh, you guys are lucky. You guys are so lucky.
Lucky? How are we lucky?
Yeah. My primary is a big Italian guy.
Ooh.
Who stands about 6'4", maybe about a solid 3. We work out, and he got these big Italian sausage fingers, and he says, "Come on, buddy, it's that time." And I'm like, "I said, you're not gonna buy me a steak dinner or something?" It's just like that. He's like, "Come on, bend your knees, come on," and he's trying to get me to relax. And his version of trying to get me to relax is he's slapping my ass cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get so graphic with the visual. But he's like,
"Oh, we're way
if you
past
can
that."
imagine, he's like, if you can smell this, he goes, come on, relax. I says, "Mike, it's not gonna happen with you slapping me on my cheeks, talking about relax." He was like, "Come on, buddy. Come on, Sparky." And then he's trying to be the comedian, and I'm normally the comedian.
Sure, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, I got to share this. Biggins'
Call you
wife
Sparky for the rest of the show.
Biggins' wife just chatted on the looks like it was on Facebook, and she says, "I'd like to go on the record and say I did not check for skid marks or have any part of this."
No, she did not. She did not.
Just through the procedure, and he calls my oh my God, my urologist, who is the total opposite of him. And he's a much smaller guy, right? Real tiny guy. And he goes, yeah, Tony, I just took care of Dewan. You ain't got to worry about it. And I'm like, oh, he could have did it. Like, why are you doing this to me? Same results. There's nothing.
Yeah, that was the great thing. She has not small. They're very long, by the way, but they are thin fingers. So I was appreciative of that. All kidding aside, though, legitimately, if you guys need to get checked for prostate, please do that. Don't let it go too long. Please get that checked out. Honestly, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Of course, my doctor did not have sausage fingers, so there's that, and he didn't. I wonder if I could pay extra on my copay for that little slapping, though. Maybe I should think about that next time. Maybe I should ask for that every week. How about it? All right. So anyway, that's how I'd be doing. All right. Let's talk about.
I'm waiting for the segue. What's the segue?
The segue. The other thing that really chaps my ass is this Robin Hood thing. I know. I'm sure you guys have talked or seen it, at least on the news. Basically, Robinhood and a lot of other apps did not allow users to buy stocks of GameStop and AMC. And to reverse, to give you a better description of what's happening on, basically, there was a short sell of GameStop and AMC that was happening, which would basically make the hedge funds make a lot of money. And they do this all the time. Like, there's no big deal. Like, they'll buy a stock and then they'll sell it low and get money and get profits back on that. But people have had enough of the hedge funds making a lot of money. So what some Redditors did was say, hey, look, there's a short sell coming up where the hedge funds have got to pay back the GameStop, like hundreds of thousands, I don't know how many shares, but a lot of shares of GameStop, and it's right now it's trending at $20. If we can all band together and drive the price up, it's going to make Wall Street have to pay, or these hedge funds pay a lot of money. And they decided, hey, let's do this. So you guys have seen it on the news. It went from like $20 all the way up to $455. Well, what that means for these hedge funds is they thought that they were going to buy it lower than $20. But now they've got to pay $455, and that's going to bankrupt a lot of them. So it was a big kind of like screw you to Wall Street from the common people. Well, it was going. Yeah, are you guys following? Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, that was a good explanation. I had no idea why.
I'm following it.
All right. So what really made people mad was Robinhood and a lot of other apps where people buy stocks said you can't buy any more of GameStop. You can sell it, but you can't buy it. And what that does is it drives the price of that stock down. And in doing so, it makes it cheaper for those hedge funds to buy those stocks. Instead of paying the $455, they're paying a considerable less for that. And it ended up being like, I think today it closed around 230. And so instead of paying 455 for a stock, they can pay 230 because these apps wouldn't let the common people buy the stock. So there's an outrage of that, and people are really, really upset. And now, from what I saw, the last thing I heard, and I've been tuning into this all day, is like the SEC is getting involved. There's going to be like federal investigation on all this stuff, and it's just really frustrating to show you how much that Wall Street is rigged. Even when the common man just tries to buy stocks, they're not able to do it. And what Robinhood and all these other apps said was, we're here to protect you. We think that you're making a bad decision buying all these stocks because it's going to come crashing down and people are putting in a lot of money, and we want to protect you so that you don't lose money, which is horse crap. It's at the end of the day, they're protecting the hedge fund managers and Wall Street and these companies that loan Wall Street and hedge funds money. So it's a big thing. It really, really ticks me off. But after hours, there's some other apps that are allowing you to buy it. And so now it's starting to go back up. And hopefully tomorrow, when everything is kind of cleared, those stocks will go up and allow the people to kind of give it to Wall Street a little bit. Maybe have a DRE to Wall Street. How about that?
There we go. Hey, there's your title for the show too.
That's a good one.
Yeah, but hey, Alan Shaler says that Robinhood said that they would open it back up tomorrow in a limited way, as far as those stocks, and I did see that on the news this evening before this recording as well. So
Okay,
be interesting to see what happens for sure.
Yeah. The thing is, no one was going to be buying GameStop before this.
Right.
This isn't
Nobody would have done it.
No one who's a smart quote investor is going that direction.
Yeah,
because it's a failing company.
Yeah, and that's what
I
Wall
get
Street
that
was
there's got to be
betting
some
on.
protection here for the system a little bit. I read a Tom Clancy book that actually covered this a little bit, so I feel like I know what I'm talking about.
Ooh, come on, expert.
And it's basically the plot of this was some people basically rigged some software, because a lot of us run digitally, like it's all like algorithms, and they basically were able to fool the system into making a bunch of trades that normally wouldn't happen, and like basically crashed the market. It was a foreign attack. It was a Tom Clancy book, but I forget the name of the book. It's really good.
Yeah.
But the State Department, or the government, had to step in and like fix Wall Street because it was going to bankrupt everybody. So
Yeah.
there's sticking it, but there's this: if it shows a weakness in the system, it can be exploited by foreign governments, even. So
Well, I mean, but even just watching the news, I saw just a straight up guy on Fox News, an expert, just say, well, the wrong people are making money, and the wrong people was these small time amateur investors. Like, I mean, even from the news perspective, it's, oh, these bad people are trying to buy all the stock and rise it up and really screw up the stock market. People are just trying to make money. Like, there's people that have made like 50 grand and put it down on the house and be able to do things they never thought they would be able to do before, because they're, trying to play the market and play the odds. And for a good time, if you would have gotten out at $455 a share, you would have made some money, some legit money.
right.
So, because it was like I said, I bought some AMC stock for $2.90, and it's up to, I think it got up to 21, but now I think it's down to 15 or so. But that's still a good chunk of money if you buy,
I'm dumping it right now. It's going to change.
I think it's going to go up. I think especially if Robinhood's saying that they're going to open it up, dadgum. And the thing is that they have to sell. The hedge funds have got to buy all of these stocks back tomorrow, because February 1st is the deadline. So to recoup their funds. So they have to buy all these stocks back at that price. So somehow, I mean, they're going to lose money, but just how much is going to be up to Robinhood and all those other folks to do it.
So I got to ask, how is that any different from when these same hedge fund guys were betting against the real estate market, selling bad loans to companies, right?
Yep.
And everybody took a bath on it. people were losing their homes and their shirts off their back. So what's the difference? I think in this case, you got the average guy trying to get his leg up,
Hmm.
and the powers that be just don't want to let it happen. It's a piss poor reflection of not just capitalism, but greed.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I'm not even sure where to go with that. It's just so much.
And even just a proof that maybe the free market really isn't free. If it was really free, they would say, well, you do what you want, you buy what you want to do. And I know Fidelity, they had that same mentality. They never stopped selling GameStop or AMC or shut anything down. And even with Robinhood, there's so many stocks that you can't buy. They just put a freeze on it all. So it's really interesting. Speaking of interesting, guys, there is a newspaper in Whitley, Kentucky. You say, where is Whitley, Kentucky? It is the east part of Kentucky. It's Appalachia area. And it's just a little paper in a little town, but they have one of the best things going now. And it's called Speak Your Piece. And it's not PEACE, it's PIECE. And what they do is they have basically a answering machine, and they will allow people to just call this answering machine, vent their piece, and then they just print it, which in East Kentucky is brilliant. Let me read you guys just a few of the Speak Your Piece. And so this will be a new bit for the show. The Mountain Eagle Speak Your Piece, and you can go to mountaineagle.com, and I think you could just search it and find it, but in Whitley, Kentucky. So here we go. To the women of Letcher County, if your husband is disappearing and you can't exactly tell where he's been, I can tell you where he's been. Right over on Rock House is a cemetery, and I put wildlife camera there to see who's vandalizing the cemetery. And ho, ho, ho to all the people I see there. 3 I know are married men. People, I would find some other place to fool around before you end up in bad trouble.
What?
Oh,
Wow.
All right, here's the other. To the punk who told me to call him a communist to his face, maybe one day you will get your wish. I think I can come up with a good cure for your diarrhea of the mouth.
Burn.
Ooh, burn. And in the same, his response was, in response to the comment about being called a communist to your face, you are a communist. Watch the next 4 years, you communist. Oh, there's classic. I wish somebody would impeach me. I don't want to work anymore. The end. All right, I got 2.
Works, right?
Do what? Yeah,
Is that
right.
how that works?
All right, I got 2 more. And to the fat slobs in Mudtown who are always hollering about what they are going to do to me, you better jump in real quick because you're not invisible. Anything you can do can be done back at you. Some of these just don't make sense, but come on. All right, last but not least, this one's can you cue that music again? The DRE music.
Which music? Oh yeah, you
The
got it.
DRE.
You got it, man.
To Donna, I want you to know that you will always hold a special place in my heart. Remember all those good times we had in Blair Branch? Let's do it again someday. Bye. There you go. And that's Speak Your Piece.
Wow. This is a
Whitley County,
Kentucky Mountain newspaper.
It is a Kentucky Mountain newspaper. I'm from Kentucky, so I can say, but hey, buddy, y'all got some good stuff going on.
How many of those did you write? That's the real question.
0. I mean, you can go to that site and you can pull them out yourself. Now, I did subscribe. I mean, it's astronomical how much they're charging. $26 for the entire year of online subscription. $26. Well
Wow.
worth it, my friends.
That's a good deal.
Absolutely.
That's worth it right there. Wow.
Producer Brian, you wanted to talk about pizza.
Yeah, this is kind of out of left field probably, but so apparently, Pizza Hut announced a new offering, Detroit style pizza. Raise of hands. Who knows what Detroit pizza is?
I think it's just pizza that was found on the side of the road.
It's you got glass in it, probably. I don't know. It's yeah. So people are like, "What the heck
8 mile
is
long?
what the heck is Detroit style pizza?" Because nobody, I think, outside of the Great Lakes has any idea what they're talking about. But you think it's a type of deep dish. But when you look at the picture, it looks like a Sicilian pizza. You know, it's Sicilian pizza, right? It's basically it's like all crust and a little bit of cheese on top. I think it's the same idea, or it's just a ripoff. It's a square Chicago pizza, maybe. Makes no sense. I was just curious if anyone, or if anyone in the chat even knows what the heck a Detroit style pizza is that hasn't already seen a commercial, you know? I think it's just square.
No, it's just square.
Pizza, maybe. Yeah.
When I lived in St. Louis, we had Emo's Pizza, and it was just a square, or it was a circle, but it was cut into squares. But it had this different type of cheese on it. But it was the best pizza growing up, and I don't remember what the kind of cheese it is, but it was.
You've talked about, I think.
It was so good. Yeah.
Real quick.
So would anybody get the Detroit style pizza? I feel like you're going to get shot if you get that.
Yeah, this headline I just found says Pizza Hut launches Detroit style pizza, and America says, "Huh?"
That's right.
They're just making
all
stuff
I can
up.
think of is maybe it's like the football team where it just Peter runs and never really accomplish anything. I don't know.
It's a square deep dish pizza. That's all I can.
You lose a tooth and a pothole on that pizza.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to some wacky news brought to you by Watchman Cigars. If you need a quality cigar at a reasonable price, check out our friends at Watchman Cigars. DeJuan, you've had Watchman Cigars, correct?
Yes, very, very smooth, very good cigar. Can't wait to get some more.
All right, I'll send you some.
I'm sustaining from smoking until the weather gets better.
Okay, we'll wait until it gets nice.
Especially, it's a little cold. Like I just got an order in because I hadn't had a cigar in a couple of months. I was like, I just want a cigar. So I sat outside like it didn't last. I forget what night it was, Saturday or Sunday. Like I built a fire, so it was a little warmer. But as soon as the fire went out, I was like, man, it's cold out here. Totally worked.
Yeah, it's in the 20s up here, so it's extremely cold.
Oof.
So yeah.
No. All right, let's go to some wacky news.
Here we go. All right. So, most of us have probably been to a child's birthday party. There's usually some kind of theme. My kids have had like Mickey Mouse, they've had Disney princess parties, you name it. Depending on the age, when I was a kid, I had a Batman, a Superman, whatever. The cakes decorated. Well, this mother says that her toddler is obsessed with not a cartoon character or animated person. She's obsessed with a personal injury lawyer that's on TV commercials.
Oh.
So here's the article. Before Grayson could walk or talk, he made it clear that his family couldn't bother him when Morris Bart commercial was on TV. Bart is a personal injury lawyer in New Orleans and Grayson's favorite person in the world. So when it came time to choose a theme for his second birthday, his mom knew just what to do. So they had like a 20, family, and this, the kids' birthdays are all about the parents, not about the kids necessarily.
Sure, yeah.
It's a party, but basically there's a picture of a cake, and they got like, you get your picture printed on top of a cake at like the grocery store. This lawyer's face is on this kid's birthday cake. There's a cutout and like framed pictures here.
Oh my goodness.
Of a personal injury lawyer. I think they even played commercials like on the TiVo or something for the entertainment. Like we always would do like the music from the show during the party to just go.
Sure,
it's fun. So they've got, the commercial playing on repeat in the background.
Why does he like him so much, you think?
Maybe it's his real dad. Who knows?
It's the hammer.
Yeah.
Man.
So I thought,
what's the best
just lost child's
birthday party you had?
Oh, Brian lost his audio there. Well, he's.
I remember I had the McDonald's one, but I was disappointed because Ronald McDonald never showed up. But then I realized I'm scared of clowns, so that's probably a good thing. So Did you guys ever have it at McDonald's?
I did it at Chuck E. Cheese
Ooh, oh yeah.
back in the day. Yeah.
Dude, those little animatronic things, they freak me out too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Showbiz Pizza.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I did with Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah.
About
Yeah,
Godfather's
Showbiz
Pizza.
here in Charlotte was
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
The best birthday party, kid birthday party I had when I found out it wasn't my kid, and I just it was rough because that little guy was ugly. He fell out the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down. Let me see.
Did you get a card in the
Big
mail?
Mama told me. Big Mama told me. She said, "That ain't your baby." I said, Lord have mercy. I'm sorry. You know,
Did you get a
it was
card that
the
says
80s.
"Congratulations, you're not the father"?
It was the late '80s. You know,
Yeah, sure.
cocaine.
Yeah,
You know. I'm sorry. This is a conservative.
it's fine. We've talked about butts. You're good.
Yeah, there's no we've already fallen off the chains here, so
We're
the
good.
rails.
Well,
Yeah.
that was just humor. Actually, we was so poor growing up. You know, I think the best party we had was my mom took us down to KFC to lick other people's fingers. It was just like
Oh. Oh.
I was like, Mommy, I think he's been scratching somewhere.
You just had a DRE. You just gave a DRE.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Anything else?
80s too.
Oh yeah, I got a
Such a
couple more here.
wonderful
So there's some articles circulating about apparently there's a button on the desk of the president's, like a little red
Yep.
button you can press, and it's not to like launch nuclear weapons.
No.
It's been there forever, but Trump used his to order Diet Coke, and there was
Really?
So here's my whole
Does
thing
anybody raise your hand if anybody believes that was for Diet Coke? No, it was
Maybe
for
it
a
was some-
hooker.
Or maybe it was with Bacardi in it. I don't know.
Just say what it might have been opened
It
already.
was
I
a
don't know.
hooker.
Anyway, here's what's getting me. You know, the news, like political news, has gotten so boring this week that this is what we're talking about. So
Mhm.
there was the White House had to release a statement because apparently there was a picture circulating and the button was gone.
Mhm.
So the White House had to release a statement saying, no, the button is still there. It's just not being used for Diet Coke.
What do you think it's being used for? I'm going to go out on a limb and say Viagra.
Geritol.
That's possible. Yep. This is the news, people.
Let's be clear, though. Would you rather be speculating on what's the red button for, or our president calling Kim Jong-un Rocket Man?
Right. Well, sure. This is
Mhm.
back to normal. Boring. We have a boring president, people.
Right.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. So that was that's the news this week. But speaking of Coke,
Mm.
the worst thing, not the Coke, not DeWan's Coke.
No.
The
Is
worst
that a
thing
new
in the world,
sponsor
don't you
for the
hate-
show, by the way?
Yeah.
DeWan's Coke.
Yeah, Chop almost got pardoned, but that's another story.
The one thing I hate about waking up every day, you get up and you have to, go through the process of making coffee just so you can pour it in your morning soda, right? Don't
Your
you hate
free
that?
lunch coffee.
Yeah, your free lunch coffee, you got to pour it, you got to make it so you can put it in your morning soda, right? Anyone else do that? Put
No.
coffee in your soda? No.
No.
Well, America is just now catching on, but Coke is releasing its Coca-Cola with coffee. It's an actual product. There's different flavor. Coke. There's three. I can see on the picture. There's three flavors: caramel, vanilla, and a dark blend. Yeah, Coca-Cola with coffee, real thing. Apparently, it's a big hit in Asia for a very long time.
Well,
It's not catching on. Or not catching on. They're selling it because
they made COVID.
people have nowhere to go now. Just might as well buy Coke with coffee in it.
Yeah.
Would you guys try that? Does that sound interesting at all? No.
I
Well, don't
remember
imagine you
Pepsi
understand
did this.
coffee. Have you seen it?
I remember Pepsi did the same thing back in the 90s. It was called Pepsi Kona.
What?
And yeah, if you get a chance, Google it. And
Like KO?
let me tell you something. This was like this was, I remember I drunk a 16-ounce bottle and I was up for 4 days.
Wow.
It was so much caffeine in that thing.
Huh.
It was before I think Red Bull and all this other stuff came out, these energy drinks. But yeah, if you get a chance, look it up. I think it was called Pepsi
I
Kona.
just did. Here's the fun fact for that. It was the test market for that was Philadelphia. I don't think it ever got out of there.
The government puts the crack in, and Pepsi puts in the Pepsi Kona.
Yes, the
Oh
only thing
my
I remember about
gosh.
Pepsi in the 90s was that clear Pepsi.
Oh, that was the best.
Yeah.
Tropical chill Pepsi.
You might as well
Dude,
just
I
call
could
it,
go
that's
through
Cairo
cases.
syrup. That's not Pepsi.
That tropical chill Pepsi, I would drive my dad
Oh my
nuts
God.
trying to get that stuff all day,
Tropical
every
chill
day.
Pepsi? What is that?
Mhm. It was like Pepsi with like tropical flavors in it.
Huh. Have you ever been to the
Delicious.
Coca-Cola factory down in Atlanta?
Mm-mm.
You guys remember traveling?
Mhm.
Well,
Back in
when I
the
was a
day.
kid, you go down to take a tour of the Coke plant, or it's the tourist version, and they've got like 100 different taps from all over the world. Like, oh man, I want to try this stuff. So, and they mentioned one of like the Italian versions, and I think just to say it's very different. So, 12-year-old me goes over to try this stuff. It's like clear. It is the nastiest thing I've ever had. It's just like, the point is that different tastes around the world.
Sure.
Everyone likes
Yeah.
things a little different, but
What's
so
good is that,
weird.
and then the throwback Pepsi where they use that real sugar instead of
Oh,
the
yeah.
high fructose corn
Yeah.
syrup. That's pretty good.
I was thinking something completely different with Mexican Coke. Again, it's Dewan's Coke.
Is it Dewan's
Like,
Coke? Wait, what?
yeah.
What are we? All right.
No, sorry.
Yeah, if we're going to brand it, be careful. I don't want the cartels coming after me.
That's right.
The wine's Coke. What are you doing? This guy.
You're
El
cutting into our
Chapo's
business.
after you.
Diablo Moyo. Ay, dos míos.
All right, folks, that's the wacky news. If you guys have anything you want to submit for the show, email me at headlines@sfpradio.com.
There you go. All right, so we are going to go into our special guest, producer Brian.
And now, our feature presentation.
Brought to you by Operation Decisive Victory, a 501c3 that helps our veterans. Please check them out at operationdv.com. So we want to welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in earlier, but this is Dewan Curse. He is a friend of mine. Dewan, you've got a fantastic story. You may have recognized him from his one episode in the 80s of the great Nickelodeon show Double Dare. You may recognize him from that. Otherwise, you probably don't know him at all. So, Dewan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me. We've talked about this for some time, and our schedules just couldn't sync up. So I'm really excited. I changed my underwear. I washed today, all in preparation for today's
amazing.
show.
Hey,
And,
Dewan,
that
better
doesn't
prepared than you were.
happen.
100%.
But but thank you for having me.
Man, thank you for coming on. You met my wife at Eastern University in Philly, and you guys hit it off. And then she would come home from classes, and she would just keep telling me stories and stories. I was like, we've got to hang out, because she's like, you guys would be perfect. So we finally got to go. I went up for graduation. We finally got to hang out. We ended up that night going to casino. And it was my first time, and I'll never forget, like, this great big baller went up to the blackjack table, put down like $200, walked away with $500 in 5 minutes. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? And I was just like floored. Meanwhile, I'm putting it all on black. I won $7, and I'm running around like I just hit the lottery. It was fantastic.
Oh, we had a great time. I specifically remember JT going, "Yeehaw! We got surfing turf, baby." I swear I'm gonna put that on your tombstone if you go before me. We had such a great time. It was like we hit it off right away. It was like family. And my roots are in the South, right? My family's from South Carolina. I'm always down there, seems like, except lately. So whenever I have a chance to hang out some Southern folks,
Mhm.
I tell you, it's like, I think it's a, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like we're all distant relatives, which we are technically, right? People
Sure.
from the north probably migrated from the south and vice versa. But we always refer to the south as going home. Like, you know, my
Mm,
aunts would call me, "You coming home? You coming home?" I'm like, "I'll be home. Don't worry, I'll be there." So
mm.
it's
We'll probably sit
it's always
around and
interesting.
cook some soups and eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
I mean, that is the South right
You
there.
guys hear me?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And do people still have that same like I'm coming home in the North as they do in the South?
No, no.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, all right. Well, I had to plug in my phone, so I kind of switch audio. But
No
anyway,
worries.
no, it's not the same. What I can say, I think the stark contrast between the North and the South, and I think a lot of Northerners have yet to really receive it, is that I think the further north you go, the colder people become in
Mm,
terms of how they treat one another. Like people can be that fake nice to you, you know,
mm,
act like you're really. And I won't say that of all Northerners, but what I'm saying is typically you know where you stand if you go somewhere in the South. You know, people tend to love you, and if they don't love you, they'll tell you.
right.
But either way, it's more of it's a bigger community. Like, geez, I feel like I'm starting to ramble.
No,
All
no,
right, here's a perfect example. When you go to church in the South, we all go to the same church. It might be in the same neighborhood or same region or same parish or whatever the case, but it's you'll see a very integrated church, unless it's like one of these mega churches in like Atlanta. That's another story. But up north, there's people of all the same denomination, but different churches. So, for example, um, Catholic Church up here. If you're in the inner city, there's a Spanish mass, and I can understand it because sometimes there's a language
Mhm.
barrier. But then there might be a regular mass for English people speaking folks in the city, and then there might be one for the Haitians. But if you
Mm,
separate that and you go outside of the inner city and just um, to the churches, to different Catholic churches in the region, they're really segregated by race. And that's one of those things people don't talk about.
mm,
But, you know, everybody's praying to the same God. So it's like, well, and that kind of, I bring that up and use that as an example because it actually plays out in society as well. You know, you have these pockets and these microcosms of groups of people. So I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, and when I was growing up, you had the Hispanics on one side, the blacks on another, and the whites on the other.
mm,
And it was to the point where um, I was forced to go to a school across town as part of a desegregation program. They said it was too many Puerto Ricans on one side of town, too many blacks on the other, and it's different. It's very different from the South, and which is kind of weird because when you think about the history of the South and segregation and Jim Crow and all that other stuff, you think like, oh wow, Jesus Christ, like, but it's very similar, but it's different to this day, which is kind of weird.
yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but we see that in this churches in the South. Like there's the black church
Okay.
and there's the white church and there's
Right.
the Hispanic service. But we even break it down further. There's the old style worship and then the contemporary service. so
And the
because
both.
we don't like the new
Got
songs.
the 9 and the 10:30.
Yeah, the 9.
One's got drums.
Yeah, don't play that. It's got to be organ. We're all organ here, all organ all the time. But I mean, we see that, but I think the difference is, and I don't know the North, but I know in the South, like at least for me and where I grew up, is there was respect for the black church and there was respect for the white church, and oftentimes at the church I went to, we would commingle with each other. So we would, have services together, and we would, and to be honest, like I didn't like that service because that was the one that took like nine hours. I'm like I need to get to
Like
at
There's
12
a
o'clock.
potluck
Yeah.
afterwards, right? Like every week.
There was
right?
a potluck on those. Yeah. And then, and that would stay for that, but I would have to eat prior to the church service to make it through the potluck, because that was a long service.
Like an intermission potluck.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I know the
man.
feeling. I remember
God, I
my mother
love
was a Sunday
potlucks.
school teacher, and I used to be like, "Mom, we'd be in church all day." I'd be like, "Mom, I just want to go to hell. Can we go home?" Needless to say, I got beat for that.
Sure, clearly. I do want to talk. I mean, we'll just be honest and open. And I think one thing that I love about our show is we're transparent. We are who we are, and we love each other. And but you grew up in Camden, and it was in the subsidized housing, right? Tell us about that, because we're a bunch of three white guys. We don't know.
Well, it's interesting we talk about that, right? So I grew up. I'd say the 80s and early 90s was like, there's life before you really realize what was happening in life. So I'd say you start becoming conscious of your surroundings, like maybe 8, 9-ish, and when I think about when I was 8, 9, that's like 1982, 83, maybe. So by the time I was 10, which was 84, cocaine and crack started moving in. And we grew up in a row house. Actually, our neighborhoods were nice, and it wasn't like you see today, where it was like you didn't know you were poor unless you went somewhere where rich people were. You know what I mean? It was just like we didn't have, and that just was normal, right? So my mom didn't have a car. We lived downtown near all the major transportation, so we didn't need a car. And all the shopping was there, and it was like, in hindsight, it was actually a pretty good place to be. But once I think the drug culture and epidemic happened, everything changed dramatically. Unlike places like Chicago and LA and maybe even Detroit, we didn't have gang culture. Like, you didn't have Crips and Bloods and Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords and all that other stuff. But what happened was, like most urban areas, those drug sets were formed out of neighborhood kids that were introduced to making a lot of money really fast. So by the time I think I was maybe 12 or 12, at the time I was 12, a lot of my friends were knee deep in selling drugs, and they were making at 12 years old probably $2,500 a week easily.
Wow.
And a lot of those guys, by the time they were like 20, might have had $800,000-900,000 or more cash. And now we start evolving into the community that is, into the impact of that, the need to retain territory and all that other stuff. Now, my brother and I, we navigated around all that other stuff. See, like I said, unlike those other places, there wasn't any pressure of like, oh, you better join this gang or we'll kill you. But the big issue was the temptation. The temptation was always there. Now, I was fortunate enough where I got a job washing dishes after school for a guy who played for the Eagles. His name was Kenny Jackson. As a matter of fact, I had lunch with his ex-wife today, and we were talking about how I avoided a lot of that stuff. And she asked me, she says, "Well, what do you think was the main contributor?" And I told her, I said, "Well, looking back, I would have to say I was introduced to diversity at an early age. And I think that diversity spawned something inside of me to seek more diversity, meaning diverse in my thinking, who I hang out with, different cultures, whatever the case. Because, in my neighborhood, it was all Black. We had sprinkles of Hispanics, but not a lot, right? And then there was the white side of town, where, we didn't go because we just didn't go. And it wasn't because it was like this kind of societal beef or anything. It was just that most of the businesses and things that we went to were kind of right there where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And, we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have a car. So, but anyway, so as I got older and being introduced to diversity early age, then I started branching out into talking to Asian kids at school and hanging out more Hispanics and then my Italian friends. I started hanging out with them. To which case, like my one friend, she always says, "Well, you're really Italian with a dark tan." I'm like, "Oh, shut up," because I don't refer to spaghetti sauce. Most of the times refer to it as gravy, and so some of those things, some of those minor things I picked up along the way that kind of helped me, I guess. I don't want to say assimilate, but kind of break into other groups to hang out with. So when I went to the mall or when I hung out after work, I hang out with anybody. I had a diversity in music, and I think music brings a lot of people together.
Mm-hmm.
So I was introduced to like Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Led Zeppelin and groups like Extreme and REM, and you don't realize growing up in an urban environment because everything is like R&B. And then I grew up in a time when rap started coming about. So my parents' generation, they definitely wasn't listening to that. So,
Sure.
I had a very well-rounded palette of music, and that takes you into different circles. So, once you're able to hold conversations about, things that people assume you might not know about, and then you kind of break that ice and start talking about, oh yeah, well, I think the best gravy is made by, Prego if it's going to be store-bought versus ragu. And what? That stuff tastes like trash. So, and it's those icebreakers that kind of break down the barriers that people may have apprehension about.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate in that aspect because I kind of, once that door was open for me, I just kept going through other doors. Like, okay, well, this is how the Vietnamese friends, this is what they do, and this is how they refer to talk about certain things. Like, try stuff like balut. If you don't know what balut is, look it up. BALUT. And whew. But I will say this, like I said, being able to try different things, go different places, and then that kind of opens your thinking up. So everything's not one side. Ruth Ann and I were talking about this earlier. This country is a whole lot of gray area, but everybody wants to be one extreme or the other. Either you got to be fully conservative or fully liberal. When the reality is there's things I'm very ultra conservative about, there's things I'm very liberal about. But I think it's having that discernment to understand what works for me and why it works for me.
Yeah.
Whereas our country is just headed to this place where, we can't say, oh, we're black and Anthony's Italian and his family's very proud, just like we're very proud. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's always like, oh, well, everybody wants to be number one. And we really need to break away from this individualism and get back to, I guess, one dysfunctional family, because that's really what we are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and like, I'm a Kentucky fan and he's a North Carolina fan, but like, if we just come to the point of saying, hey, we really just are passionate about basketball. We both really like it. And we root for our team, but overall, just the sport in itself is awesome. Like, if we can have just a common landing pad for that, and then, talk about our differences, then okay, I think that's easier than my team's better or my team's better or my political party's better or yours. At the end of the day, I honestly think both sides really love this country. Yeah. We just have different ways of getting there, right? Of making it better.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are really tired of the extremes kind of running the show. There's a lot of people that are in the middle that just kind of want to get back to where, okay, you have thoughts that are a little bit different than mine, but whatever. Let's go have a beer or let's go have a coffee or whatever. I think there's a lot of people that are really tired of the divisiveness that our country has happened.
I think that's due to a lot of censorship and political correctness, right? If we
Absolutely.
rewind the arts and entertainment, let's say 30, 40 years, do you remember, well, you might be a little younger than me, but
Come
there
on.
was a show called All in the Family with
Yeah,
Carl O'Connor,
I remember that.
right?
Archie
Absolutely.
Bunker. Yep.
Yeah,
I've heard of
exactly.
that.
Now, if you look at some of the topics and language,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean, between that and the Richard Pryor show and the Jeffersons, I mean, it was like a free fall. But
Yeah.
you know, people felt empowered to kind of speak their mind, while ultimately you kind of you kind of knew the core of your neighbor, if you will. Like, let me put it this way: you know, I might not like something somebody say, right? Or maybe I don't like my neighbor because he cuts his grass 7 o'clock in the morning every Saturday and it gets on my damn nerves, right?
You're right.
But that doesn't mean if he was in a car accident, I'm going to drive past him and leave him on the ground.
Right.
And that's what when I talk about the core of a man, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Now it's like between these I'm trying to use my words carefully because I don't want to sound divisive, but some of these groups, whether it be LGBTQ, whether it be BLM, whether it be the left, the right, whatever, they want everybody in this mindset of, oh, you've offended me, and everything is so offensive. Now,
Mm.
granted, I think there has to be some decorum on how we engage one another,
Right.
but you know, with with my white friends, and we're really close. I feel like, and I always tell them, I'm like, you know, you should be able to say what's on your mind and not tiptoe around it. Like
Mm.
one of my buddies, he always say, you know, Dwan, I saw this African American guy, and I'm like, whoa, you mean a black guy? You know, like, are we really at that point now where, you know? And I told him, I said, see, I think but that's where he felt like he don't want to kind of, you know, tread on me, if you will. And I'm like,
Mm.
well, hold on, Jonathan, we're friends. Like, I know you. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
you don't feel like you need to tiptoe. Come at me with something if something's on your mind.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. And even if we argue about it, if by the time we leave, it's not going to be a situation where I'm like, I hate this guy. I'm
Yeah.
going to kill him tomorrow. You know, and that's where our country's at. It's like you can't say anything to anybody without folks getting too far offended. But it's different times too. You know, it's
Mm.
like I think it's a generational thing where a lot of younger people are a lot more conscious of how. And I think that might go back to the whole bullying thing. I don't know. I might get off on tangents.
Yeah. I think
But
that there's some legitimacy to that. Is I think that it's kind of a both and as well, right?
Mhm.
Like we have to be sensitive of other people's thoughts and feelings and where they're at. But at the other hand, there is the truth of,
Right.
you know, you are black. I mean, we're
Yeah.
white. Like we understand that. It's okay. And I mean, there are those facts that are
Yeah.
just they are what they are.
Yeah.
But that's no excuse to be like, oh, well, I don't all blacks are whatever, all
Right.
whites
Right.
are, this. So yeah, we have to be sensitive of that. And
That's a great segue though, because we are shaped by our life experiences,
absolutely.
and you you can't discount what somebody's been through because they're going to
Mm.
internalize it. Um, I recently found out a friend of mine, his wife was attacked, right, years ago.
Mm.
She was telling us, and it kind of and you know, and I had to ask her because she was telling the story about when some guy tried to attack her, in a parking garage, whatever, and she told the story without going into details about the race of the man. So I asked her point blank. I says, "Well, was it a black guy?" And she said, "Yeah, it was." And then I told her, I says, "Now, how did that make you feel for a while? Because I know how I would feel. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, even if you took the racial component out of it, and she was attacked by a white guy, she still feels some way about being attacked.
Mhm.
However, I think when you start talking about stereotypes, when you talk about what the media portrays, when you start talking about a lot of these things, whether you be black, Latino, whatever stereotype is being jammed down everybody's throat via the media, it's going to resonate with people who's had similar experiences, and they're going to internalize that. Now, I
Mhm.
think the hard part for everybody to do, because we're really talking about post-traumatic stress disorder from a societal level. We
Right.
have to be able to say, okay, you know what? I know this happened. It's like with the police. Yeah, I've been profiled. I've been attacked by the police. One time, a trooper put his pistol in my mouth and told me to kill me.
What?
But yeah, but I also have to realize that's not every police officer.
Mm.
Right.
But that trauma, right? That trauma you have to unpack. So when we start talking about things like how we deal with each other in society, people need to realize, yeah, this country has a lot of trauma, a lot of
Yeah.
trauma. And until we start having the conversations about, okay, well, you know what, this is how we're going to try to get forward this. Maybe, and I'm talking about from an individual, not so much a society, but, you know, that person that's attacked, do they need counseling? Do they need that reaffirmation that, hey, you know what, this is a crazy one-off situation. This isn't everybody. And how do you
Mhm.
reaffirm that without constantly reaffirming that? Because now that sometimes does damage indirectly as well.
How do you think we bring healing to the country as a society, racially?
Oh, pay me.
An AMC stock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Add a little GameStop to that too.
No. All seriousness, I think it's one of those things where there have to be a change in the system itself, right? So we'll use police brutality as an example because I think that's the biggest thing with a lot of minorities, right? There's a couple components here. First and foremost, I think there needs to be light shed on all police brutality, not just police brutality against minorities, because statistically speaking, whites suffer from more police brutality than minorities. Think about
Yeah.
that. Logically,
Oh, I didn't
we
know
are,
that. Wow.
yeah. If you look at just the base numbers, right? If blacks make up, we'll say, maybe we'll say on the high end, 13-14% of this country
It's 18%.
in terms of population.
The 2019 census, I think. Or
Yeah.
the
So
last- the
statistically
latest,
speaking,
18%.
we can't possibly be the majority of brutality. You go to places like Utah and Kansas and Arkansas, you'd be surprised. Especially, there's more brutality in rural America than there may be in urban America. And suburban America, they just don't see none of that shit for the most part. Because no, I'm serious. Because
Yeah,
of your zip code.
absolutely.
There's been plenty of times, and we're in a well-to-do area. You know, cops will get behind me, run my tag, and just back off.
Mm.
It has everything to do with my zip code. It has nothing to do with me because my windows are tinted, my music is loud, and I'm just speeding down the highway.
Right.
But statistically speaking, there's that, but then there's the portrayal, and I think what it is it may be unjustly in the black community or in a minority community, because I can't just say blacks. I think it depends on the region too. So, but when we start talking about healing, the best way to do is you have to start changing that system. There has to be accountability and transparency. I think that's really the key to it all. But fundamentally, if we're talking about how do we get everybody on the same page, it's not going to happen. Because we could all, let's just be realistic. We could all be beige, right? We all could be the same color in this country, and we still find a way to war. It's man's nature to just be divisive. I mean, it really is. But if we're talking about coexisting, if we're talking about being able to reduce violence, if we're talking about racial equality, I mean, there's things that we can do. And I mean, we could really do. And I think that starts with each and every one of us, how we internalize some of our own biases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because that's a work in progress. I mean, I'm serious. Like, I remember my one buddy, Chris, I remember when I first started hanging out with him, my black friends were like, yo, who's this guy? Why are you hanging out with him? You know, because we grew up in the city, and now my palette of friends has grown.
Mhm.
But for a lot of people who still remain in the city and they still deal with the same people day to day, they have the apprehension because they don't know what that person's intent may be.
Hmm.
And the best way you can overcome that is be like, you know, you need advocates, right? You
Hmm.
need people to say, hey, man, like, Chris is a good guy. You know what I mean? And then as they get to know Chris, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, yeah. So now it's like, hey, is Chris coming? Is Chris coming to the party? Yeah. So I think that same approach of internalizing our own actions and being able to check our own biases in the moment, and even when we're alone or when we're our spouses, because a lot of that stuff kind of happens there. And with the children are sponges. They'll pick up stuff.
Yeah.
It could be a snide comment here or there, and anything. So those biases kind of fester in those children. They grow up, and then when they get to those ages where you get rebellious or whatever the case, I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts to it, a lot.
I think that's key. Is there's not one silver bullet that's going to do it, right? I think the key word to understand this is just there's so much nuance. If if you're talking about welfare, like we think white folk, for the majority, I would say, is like, oh, that's for the black people. It was started, if you really do your research, it was started to help white women that that didn't have jobs that stayed at home. That's where it started from.
Yeah, during the Depression.
Yeah. So, and statistically, more white people use welfare than black people.
Yeah.
So checking those biases and checking those numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you also have to watch what you subscribe to in terms of false narratives, right?
Yeah.
It's
Those echo
easy
chambers.
again. Yeah, it goes back to how we internalize things, our communities, and what's being talked about there, and who's championed for what. I don't think people. I hope not. Anyway, I don't think the majority of people wake up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to hate that person today," or "I'm going to be biased against that person today." I think it's situational bias that occurs, where a lot of folks may retreat to what they think they know. Some folks may retreat to a bad experience. There was a woman, Jesus. I don't know if you guys remember a few weeks back, the lady in New York accused that kid of the jazz players for stealing her phone.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, like, okay, so how did you get there? How did you get to that point where you singled that one child out?
Yeah.
Did you say, oh, black guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And she was saying like, oh, I was stopping everybody that was in that area. Lady, you were not. Like, you had those preconceived ideas.
Yeah. And again, it could be one of those inert things that it's like I don't know. It's like one of those I'm having a brain fart now.
No, you're right.
It's like one of them sleeper cells. You don't know it's there until it's activated. And like I said, that's with everybody. I think there's a difference between racism and prejudices. And I think we all have prejudices, and they get auto-assigned as racism. And there's a serious difference. Like, I've met some truly racist people, and that kind of evil, it's you can't imagine. Like going back to I was 19, and I was driving down 295 in New Jersey, and state trooper pulls me over, and he pulls me out the car, and he cocks his gun back and put it in my mouth, and he says, "If I ever catch you down here, I'll kill you." To me,
that's evil, man.
That's very evil. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's racism.
Yeah.
Now,
there's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But he was trying to send a message, right? But
sure.
Now, and then you have prejudices where people may say, all right, well, I'm building a team or I'm building a work crew, and I need to ensure that everybody gets along to get this job done. And maybe I got two candidates that are equal in terms of qualifications, but I'm going to, this guy, I don't like the way this guy looks, so I'm not going to hire him, right? And I'm not talking about racial. I'm just talking about the guy may come in with tattoos.
Listen, dude, I understand.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're seeing whatever.
I always got picked last to kickball because I was fat. I never got the first one.
But it goes back to my Cuban point. Mark Cuban made a point about, and they tried to crucify him for it. He said, they said, Mark, if you was walking down the street and a black kid with a hoodie, was walking towards you, what would you do? He said, I cross the street. And then the black community stopped right there. That's all they heard. They said, screw Mark Cuban, he's a racist.
Right.
But they didn't listen to the rest of what he was saying. He says, but if I seen a white guy with a bunch of tattoos and a bald head, I cross back over the other way, and again, now we're talking about prejudices and biases, which is different from racism. And it's, I think in America, we really need to learn how to separate the two, because now it's like, if you disagree with something, I say, oh, you must be a racist.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Versus, okay, well, why do you feel that way? Let's get to the root of, okay.
One thing can be, there's a lack of like cultural understanding.
Yes.
And there's a hate you because you look a certain way.
Right.
Like there's a cultural divide in white and black America just from the way we've been raised, or like, if I don't listen to your songs, or, like I pick on Magic Man. Like, why do you got to park backwards in the parking lot? Like what's that about? Right. It's just these little things. I do the same thing. Right. And that's just drives this, like, I don't know if it's the untrust or just little things that we just don't, I don't know why you do it.
You're so scared of the thing that you don't know. I think that's a great point.
Upset me that this happens, right?
He's afraid I'm going to do a wicked burnout and run him over when I leave.
But I think you have a great point, is that you don't trust the things that are different than what you do.
Right.
And so there's automatic, maybe not even a distrust, but like a sideways glance of, why do you do it that way? Like, even with my wife, like, why do you do this? Like, that makes no sense. And there's a little bit of friction there. But if there's more and more friction, the more you can't lean into that and realize it's just a different way of doing it.
Yeah. Sure. Like, I live in a very diverse neighborhood. Like on my street, it's probably 30% white people, 30% blacks, and then 30% whatever's left. There's some Asians. There might be Hispanic on, like, it's just, it's a very diverse area. And and things about I don't understand. There's a guy that lives across the street from me. I've talked to him once or twice. He'll get up and just like walk down the street in the middle of the night, whether it's raining or not, just like disappear for an hour or two. And I'll be out smoking a cigar or something on the patio and like, where's this dude going?
He's talking to his girlfriend. He don't want his wife to find out.
There you go.
Right?
He's going to cemetery.
Yeah.
Little is like, I don't have anything against this guy. I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. What's driving you to do whatever you're doing in the middle of the night?
These are strange times. You can't take that for granted either, because you got folks just acting out. But I think what I believe personally is that the only difference in this country is the haves versus the have-nots.
Absolutely.
And as long as the haves can keep the have-nots hating each other.
That's the story of Wall Street right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. It's not about GOP and the left. It's about the haves and the have-nots.
What's the real minority in this country? Is the haves, right?
Yeah, and it's a club, right? And once you get money, then it becomes a power thing. I say it all the time: left wing, right wing, same bird.
Absolutely.
And that bird is to keep the rich rich.
Yep.
And if they can keep us fighting each other, how many times have taxes gone up under both parties?
Mm-hmm.
I really liked President Obama when he was in office, but I didn't subscribe to all his policies. Mm-hmm. When he got rid of the Bush era tax cuts, we felt that, and we felt that hard. Yeah. And I think most middle class Americans felt that. But if I spoke out about that in my community, they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, that's the Messiah. That's our Messiah. I'm like, no, man. Like, he's like every politician is something good and there's something bad. Yeah. And you have to kind of figure out what works for you. To me, it doesn't matter who's in office. And, right. And let me just touch on this briefly. Sure. And I was saying this to Ruth Ann earlier. I said, if we look at most urban areas that are Democratic, like I said, I was born in Camden. New Jersey is a blue state historically. Nothing's changed. No matter who's president, no matter who's
Mm-hmm.
governor, no matter who's mayor. So if you wanted to blame a Republican president, what does it have to do with when the Democratic was when we had a Democratic president?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and none of that has to do because we have always had a Democratic governor, with the exception of Christie. And then we've, you know what I mean? And then we've had the city, which has never been Republican. So now I have to look at it from an economic standpoint, be like, okay, so I'm voting blue every year. And what is changing?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And trying to get folks to realize that, like, hey, listen, you know, sometimes you just get lip service. You really need to pay attention to the people in the community that's trying to make the change.
Yeah.
And if somebody's a little bit closer to that, then that's what you need to get behind. But for the most part, you know, rich people just come in, exploit areas. You know, gentrification wouldn't exist if that wasn't the case, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk a little bit, and I don't know if we need to edit this, we can, but can we talk a little bit of the Landlord Diaries?
Oh, okay. So, geez, I guess it's been almost 20 years. It's when I got into real estate back when the market was hot. Started flipping properties and became a landlord and all that wonderful stuff. And I think when I first got on Facebook, and I said, you know, let me create this group. So I created the Landlord Diaries, and it was a great place for other landlords to come and discuss things that they might be seeing, trends, or tell stories, or, you know, I wanted to make it fun and informative.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how that kind of spawned up. And I post stories and information. I haven't really been too heavy on it lately because I've taken a step back, and the timing has actually been pretty good because the moratorium is making it especially hard for landlords right now. But
yeah, I kind of want to bring that up. One, it's funny. Like, you've got some really funny stuff, stories and stuff on there. It's insane. But how is that impacting you, the moratorium?
Well, I actually liquidated most of my portfolio a couple years ago. So, like I said, the timing kind of worked out just fine. I might have one or two left, but
Gotcha.
For the most part, my guys are pretty good. But I think as now this goes back to us being human beings versus just chasing the almighty dollar.
Yeah.
I don't take pride in putting people out, and I do everything in my power to avoid that.
Yeah.
If somebody's getting behind, because people, they can have a death in the family, they can lose their job, anything can happen that causes people to get delayed in the rent. So I partner with a lot of agencies here in New Jersey, eviction prevention, homeless prevention, a lot of social agencies. I got a lot of networks everywhere, and we do everything we can to ensure that, you know, people retain their housing. But unfortunately, you have people that just want to buck the system, and they want to be irresponsible, and you can't do nothing for those folks. So, you know, at that point, the black hand is administered, and
Sure.
that's what they used to call me in Camden County Court, because I've never lost a case. You can bring your attorneys; it don't matter. Once I get you on the docket, it's a done deal. There was this one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, maybe we can get a 2-year-old to have like your face on their cake, you know, their birthday cake, or the hammer.
there was this one judge. His name was Judge Laskin, and he was so fun. He retired. He might have been 82 years on the bench. 82 years old, and was on the bench before he retired.
Good gravy.
But every time I'd go into court, which wasn't a lot, you know, he said, "Uh-oh," he'd be like, "Can you stand up?" Then I'd be like, "Oh, I knew what he was going to do," so I'd stand up. He was like, "The black hand is in court, and if you have business with this man, I'm going to excuse you early so you can go handle it." And it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
You know, I've had a good run with that.
Yeah. What's your last parting advice that you can give, like, to humanity, to maybe the white community, the black community? What do you have to say?
Well, we all have feelings. We all want to feel protected. For men, we want to protect our families and be providers. for women, they want to be loved. Our children want to feel safe. I think we're all human, and we all need to get back to just that basic decency of like, hey, we can be different and still be together, even if we're apart, if that makes sense. And if I could summarize anything, it's really just treat folks how you want to be treated all the time. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
means mentally, when you're not in that person's presence, or you're in that moment where you have to uh, internalize something before you externalize it. And for me, just being married all these years, I've come to learn that, like, I want things always my way around here. But the reality is, I'm in a
Sure.
partnership, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we are in this country. We're all in a partnership, because despite our sordid history, we need each other.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm talking about at a human level. The racial stuff, people, like I said, we all could be the same color, and there still would be division somewhere.
Yep.
You have tribes in Africa that war. You had the Romans fighting the Greeks, right?
Yeah.
And like the Greeks were Puerto
I mean,
Rican.
think about someone brings
So-
you fries when you ordered onion rings. You're gonna get up about it, right? I mean,
Straight up.
it doesn't matter.
I'm a fry guy personally. Yeah,
Just saying,
that's-
Me too.
yeah. But you can have it all. You can have it all.
Yeah.
And if everybody just remember to just have a drink, eat some good food, and just relax.
hmm
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Just being able to govern yourself in a way that you will want somebody to treat your child, treat your wife, treat your mother. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't take a lot to be nice or to be kind. It takes a lot of energy to be hateful and evil. And for me, I had to kind of practice that, because I would get drawn into stuff online. Like, let me respond to this conversation. If somebody say something, next thing you know, you're drawn, and it start escalating. And instead of saying, I'll type it out, I just won't hit send.
The internet is part of the problem, right? Because
Yeah,
you can
it
say
is.
whatever you want without making eye contact with somebody.
Keyboard
Yeah.
You gotta
warriors.
look somebody in the
Yeah.
eye. It's a different ball game, right?
Yeah.
Even if
Absolutely.
you're, I don't know, even if you're racist, I feel like it's a little harder to say what you're thinking if you got.
It is.
You know
No,
what I
you're
mean?
right. Brian, that
Yeah.
is an excellent point. And it's a great segue, because how much time we got left?
As long as you want.
As much as you want, buddy.
so it's I'm glad you bring that up, because like I said, it's easy to get sucked into stuff. And I think one of the things I realized earlier on social media, because I would get into these conversations, or I get into these posts with my Black friends where we would be talking about police brutality, and then start escalating out of nowhere. And then pretty soon somebody's talking about, yeah, we ain't gonna take this from Whitey. She's going, oh, calm down. How do we get here?
Whoa, back up.
I'm not quite all the way there with you. But what I would do is I always would say to myself, if my closest white friends saw me respond that way, how would that make them feel? And that's always been kind of like my barometer, or my closest Hispanic friends, or my closest Catholic friends, or my closest gay friends, or whatever the case. And you really have to kind of, that's why I talk about internalizing, how we feel, and practicing that. How would that make them feel? I grew up in a very machismo community where homosexuality is beyond frowned upon. When I was growing up in Camden, if you were gay, you could get beat. I mean, like, assaulted. Like, and it's a lot of history in the Black community with regards to that. If you ever get a chance, look up buck breaking, and it will explain a lot as to why in our community it's like beyond frowned upon. But it's 2021, right? It's not 1981. And the world's changing, and people are changing. But we would growing up, we would use the F word, right?
Not
But
the
it wasn't
four-letter
to
word.
describe, yeah, and not the 4-letter word, right? But it wasn't to describe a person based on their sexuality. It was just to say this guy was a punk. He would run in a fight,
Yeah.
or whatever the case.
Hmm.
But now, like I said, in this day and era, you can't say that. And for me, I think in the beginning, because my one of my kids was in middle school at the time, says, "Dad, you shouldn't say that. That's derogatory." And I'm like, derogatory to who? I said, that punk motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, I was talking about a guy who I just want to beat up because he do some cowardly shit, not anything that was of their sexual orientation. And I started having those conversations with my kids. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Now I have to change my behavior, and I have to practice that, because for 20 years or 30 years or so, this was normal, right?
Yeah.
But now it's abnormal, and I have to actually make that conscious change, and it starts with me, right?
Yeah.
And that's
I
how
think
we
you
all
made
have
a really good point of, how would my white friend think about that, or my Hispanic friend, if we don't communicate to other groups and other people and other like sexual orientations, then we're not going to have that friend, and we're not going to have that understanding of who they are. And we've got to have those conversations. And this is not a advertisement to have a token black friend, but to have a real relationship with somebody that's that's different than you. And I think that's huge, because we don't run in those circles. We're in a white community with white people all around me that go to the white grocery store, that goes to for the most part, the white church. It's getting better, but it's there. So we've got
that's
to
really
be
got to be tough too, right? Because now you don't have that that opportunity rather. That opportunity is very rare, or it could be very rare. So I understand what you're saying. Because it's the same way when I was growing up, because I grew up in a black community, to a black church, had black friends, black family. But like I said, I was introduced to diversity early, and that's something that I had to continuously practice.
Yeah.
But I don't fault folks for feeling the way they feel sometimes, or if they're in a certain mindset. I think the best thing for me to do if I run into those situations is just try to help them along as best as I can. And that could be a conversation. That could be, here, let me bring you a dish. Let's eat, right? Because we all like to eat, right?
Yeah, that's where healing starts.
Yep.
So one question that we've failed to ask our folks is, and this was the question that we would always ask our guests, but Dewan, everybody has a spirit animal, right? Like, whatever your spirit animal is. What is your spirit food? If you like the food that is your food, you could be a food. What would it be?
But it's that balut thing. I looked that up.
You looked at you like that balut?
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now.
What is that?
It's not that. I can tell you that.
Oh,
balut. Do you see it?
I'm looking at it. Yeah.
BALUT.
I'll let you explain it, but yeah.
Now I'm Googling it.
Let's wait for the reaction,
Okay,
Brian.
yeah, you got to see the picture. Go ahead and tell us your spirit food, and we'll come back to the balut.
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, I make a mean rib, but I wouldn't say that's my spirit food. Like ribs, though, I've converted Muslims back to Christians with my ribs. I'm telling you, vegans have become full-blown meat eaters.
Let me take my ribs, right?
But that's because my cousin Scotty don't live near me. This guy, he can barbecue his ass off better than me. But my spirit food that kind of really speaks to, I guess it would be my ribs. Now I think about it,
right.
because you know what, it brings people together. It's enjoyable. It could be tough in some areas, or it can melt your mouth in other areas. It's juicy.
I don't need to hear about that. I'll take your wife's word for that.
It's finger looking good. Them ribs, man. Yeah.
They legit, huh?
Oh man. But
I love ribs.
You find that balut yet?
That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. What? It looks like, if I could describe, it looks like just a chicken that hasn't hatched.
Yep.
And you just eat.
Exactly.
These are ducks, I think, a lot of times, maybe. But
ducks. Yeah, ducks.
Why?
It's basically it's actually a delicatessen in the Vietnamese community. Yeah.
Can they not just scramble the egg before?
Well, yeah, well,
It's
where's
a
the fun in that?
fertilized duck egg, so it's like the embryo. It's started to grow. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I see that.
yeah,
And I worked in the restaurant industry for about a decade, so I was always trying to experiment with food and try different things. And I always say, you don't knock it till you try it. But I'm gonna tell you
Yeah.
right now, just knock that one right off your list. You don't
yeah.
want to try it.
I've
Don't
always
do
been
that.
one of those. I'll try anything once, guys, with food.
Yeah,
Nope.
No, I'm
This
gonna
is
stay away from
pushing
that.
it for me. And I've had some
yeah.
weird stuff,
There's some
but
stuff that I've been
mm-mm.
introduced to in different circles, and I try it for the sake of being a good guest and
Mhm.
cordial. But they always say you don't have to eat it if you don't want to. We love it. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll try it. And I'll say it's not for me, and it's no love lost, but I always give it a try. You know.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the church potluck, going back to that, like I would
Yeah.
always make sure that I would have a giant water. So if I get some food that just does not taste good,
Yeah.
I'll just swallow that water as,
Yeah.
I
as
never had
best I
that
could.
problem.
Just wash it down fast.
Yeah, I've been to a few potlucks where it's like that's disgusting. I don't know what
So-
that is, but that's gross.
Just got three
Which is
different kinds
spirit
of mac
food?
and cheese. You got to try them all, right?
Biscuits. I'm a fluffy guy on the inside. I mean, I go with everything. You can put anything on me and I'll be all right with it. I can't. I just love biscuits, man. They just speak to my heart like none other.
Me too. And, I didn't even
Mhm.
think about that.
Mhm.
Every time I go to Bob Evans, I always order a dozen of biscuits to go. I swear, it's the best ever.
That's what's the trouble with you northern folks is you don't have good biscuits.
Yeah.
Where can you get a good biscuit above like Virginia? That's what I want to know.
I have no idea. I know my mom used to make the best biscuits.
Not making them yourself because here we got Bojangles or even
Right.
like
Hardee's.
Hardee's as a good
Carl's
biscuit.
Jr.
I mean, this is controversial.
Uh-oh, hot take.
Here we go. McDonald's has an okay biscuit. Real talk. It's okay. Give them the choice. I'll give you two choices: McDonald's or KFC. Which biscuit do you want?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh, that's
That's
no,
true
no.
because KFC biscuits taste like chemicals.
it's like chalk.
Yeah.
See, KFC biscuits were great like 20 years ago. I don't know, something they did with the recipe.
Everything was
It
great.
was like the place to get biscuits. But now,
Pizza Hut was good.
That's back when they had trans fats.
KFC was good. Yeah.
But you legitimately like the Chick-fil-A biscuit?
oh, you don't?
Dude, that's disgusting. That is the worst biscuit.
Whoa, are you getting them fresh or are you getting them like, crunchy?
Fresh? Like
I'm not gonna say it's the worst biscuit, but there's it's
on
not
the
best
drive-through menu, on the drive-through, it is the worst. Give me a worse drive-through biscuit besides
KFC.
KFC.
Popeyes?
biscuit. Oh,
Popeyes has a legit biscuit.
Maybe not. I don't know. It seems a little processed.
Chick-fil-A, when I bite it, it falls apart.
Yeah, you
There's
want that.
nothing in there. It just crumbles.
when's the last time you had Chick-fil-A biscuit? Let's ask that.
Well, probably the late 80s.
Oh, okay. They're not terrible now.
Did you say
Are they
late
not?
80s? Did
So
you say
see-
late 80s?
You went to the
Yeah.
mall before it opened to get a Chick-fil-A breakfast biscuit. That's why.
All right. I'm going to have to try this new
Give it a-
Chick-fil-A
give it a
biscuit.
chance.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make a run to Chick-fil-A.
But I'm telling you, Wendy's, I love their breakfast. Wendy's got it on point.
Wait a minute. When did they start serving breakfast?
Since the late 80s. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
right after that Kona Pepsi came out.
It's when they discontinued the Super Bar.
Oh, hey man, Super Bar, Super Bar's legit, man.
That was
Make
awesome.
that weird taco with the cheese sauce on it.
Yeah, what was it
Yeah.
salad, spaghetti, and tacos?
nachos or something.
Oh,
Dude,
Oh,
Wendy's has a
God.
good breakfast. I like it. They got a honey butter chicken biscuit. I could put down 4 of those things.
It's not car food, man. I think it's so sticky.
Oh, who cares? Get it home. Have a moment with it. Play
Have a
music,
moment with it.
and you
Now,
can be good to
I
go.
will say this: when I'm on the road and I'm heading to South Carolina, I will only eat at Bojangles.
Good man.
That's legit. I'll give you that.
It's consistent. I look for consistency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes, like not all Popeyes are the same.
Right. Juan, my last question to you is: when in the world are you going to come down to Charlotte?
Well, every time
Mm-hmm.
every time I talk about coming, something happens,
Mm-hmm.
and now
Like, I don't want to
I'm
come. I understand.
well, no. What it is, I mean, if it's not COVID, somebody's dying or
You've
something
had a
else
lot.
is
Yeah.
going on. And the worst part is, I got all the time in the world now. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
work a press schedule, and as a matter of fact, we're going to flip back to the other end of the week. Um, in 2 weeks. So I'll work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then I'll be off for an entire week. And I was going to come. Oh, I was going to head towards South Carolina because my grandmother's her health is failing.
Mm.
I heard, and I want to see her, just in case. But then I got a report that the COVID is rampant down there, and like 12 people died in that area where she's at in like 1 week. So I'm like, with us back and forth with my
Yeah.
father-in-law, I don't want to risk it for his
Sure.
health and for my
Sure.
mother's health. So, I've been kind of quarantined to my patio, which
Well, Dewan, I
I'm
can
glad I
tell
did
you,
that.
I've hung out with JT and with Megan in person over the last,
Uh-huh.
several times over the last few months, and I haven't caught COVID from him, so I think it'll be safe to come down and
But you've
visit.
been tested more than anybody here, man.
That is true.
One time?
Get in your car,
It's more than
go
me.
to Bojangles, and then just come straight to the house. Easy peasy.
So
See?
you guys, you're in North Carolina still, right?
Charlotte, uh-huh.
Oh, that's even better.
Concord,
Right
yeah.
there, man.
Charlotte.
Same
I'm in
difference,
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, because normally I'll go to. I got cousins in Columbia,
Oh yeah.
and that's like
See,
an hour
yeah.
away.
Yeah.
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 Two.
So you know what? I tell you what. I'm supposed to go to Penn State next week, but if that falls through, I'll drive down. I'll go
All
see
right.
some family,
All right.
and I will give you a call, and I will come see you guys in person, and I will break my rule and smoke some cigars, and we will have a good time.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
We've got a room here ready for you, man.
We'll have some
Um,
cigars
That's
and
what she
some good. Yeah. We'll have some cigars and some adult beverages and have a good old time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to get some of that bourbon.
last thing, and I know I keep saying last thing, but Jermaine Curse is your cousin. How cool is that, right?
Well, there's a bunch. We're all related. If
That's
you meet
crazy.
another character, we're all related. It goes back to Jesus.
Goes back
there
to
was
Jesus. What?
no.
Technically, that's true. We're all brothers.
So I think on my branch, it's up to my great grandfather, Reverend James Allen Kears. He was one of 17 children, and and those 17 children, if you can imagine, kind of populated, thousands.
Man,
And
Mom, Papa got it on.
Yeah, we're pretty close knit, even afar. So there's always a representative from one of the branches at a funeral or a wedding. We try to keep it like that. So, for example, my grandfather's siblings, we all have a designated representative, if you will. So we try to, and I am my grandfather's designee, if you will, for our branch of the family. So, and then I have a family group page that might have 1,200 family members. And it's huge. It really is.
That's
it's hard to keep up with everybody. Yeah. As a matter of fact, are you guys familiar with the group Outcast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So Big Boy is one of our cousins.
What?
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
wow.
And then there's the Freak, right? Everybody knows Javon. He played with the Titans and with the Eagles.
Okay.
And it's like a who's who in the family. I was thinking about making a yearbook for the younger people so they can kind of, I guess have something to do with family gatherings when we do reunions. Maybe they get their yearbook signed by all the celebrities or something.
Wow.
There's we have another cousin. He's a movie star. And he has a television show called Atlanta on Fox. His name's Brian Henry. He played in that movie Widows, and he played in If you look him up, he's a very talented guy, but he's a star of a show on Fox, and he's a movie star. His mother was near and dear to me. She passed unexpectedly, but yeah, it's a smorgasbord of who we're all related to, and then there's the people without the surname that we're related to, which is always interesting. So my one cousin has a book because apparently portions of our family is descendants from President Madison.
Oh wow!
Yeah, her name's Betty Kears. She has a whole book and whole genealogy on the other Madisons, as she calls it. I don't think we're in that branch. At least not my lineage anyway. We might have worked for him. But it was, but he wasn't dipping in my branch of the family. But,
Careful, this is a family show.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you told me that now. I was Mr. Potty Mouth earlier, and I just picked up on that. I was like, I think this is a family show. I better tone it
That's
down
all right.
a little bit.
Brian can edit it.
Sorry, I got nothing better to do this weekend. Don't worry about it.
It's supposed to rain here. That's right.
Who's the most famous person in your phone right now? Like if you were to call him up.
Me. Nobody's more famous than me. What, are you kidding me?
That's true.
Big boy.
No, I wish. She's let me think. In my phone, I don't really. I think I'm in everybody else's phone. I did comedy for a little while and radio and some other stuff, but
Double Dare. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame, baby. I wish I would have recorded some of my days on the radio. That was always fun because I know I wish I had the time to do a podcast like you guys. I think this is one of the greatest inventions ever because you can have your platform, you can have your sponsors, you can have whatever you want. You don't have somebody dictating to you what your content's going to be. And I love that. That's why I'm always supporting and I'm going to support you guys the best as I can. So you ain't got to cry about it, JT.
I was going to say, man, he's got tears.
Don't get choked up.
I'm thinking about that DRE again.
He's
coming back.
He's getting verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. Road, island. It's neither a road nor an island. Discuss.
I've got this is dang allergies, man. Dewan, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to hang out with you again.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for the insight.
Yeah. And I think, dialogue and like I said, patience, tolerance, all those people think they're just like, just fun things to say around MLK Day. But no, it's more than that. Like you really have to practice. And when I say, I mean, you have to constantly practice. I used to have serious road rage, driving down the street. I used to follow people so I can give them the right so I could give them the right F-bomb or something. Or I'd be like, you black Puerto Rican Italian piece of shit. But one day, I was in my road rage moment because somebody cut me off or wasn't going fast enough, whatever it was. And I get right up next to the guy, and this older gentleman. And I thought to myself, how embarrassing is it for me to disrespect this older gentleman? You know what I mean? And from that moment, I said, I'm going to work on that. And I have to practice that. So now, it's like, maybe that person's in a rush, or maybe something's going on and they're distracted where they're preaching to it. You have to really open yourself up to, it's bigger than me.
Yeah.
And that's how it is.
Right.
Oh, that'll preach.
That's kind of like our pastor preaches, grace upon grace upon grace.
Yeah. And once you realize that, it becomes easier every day. Like we forget that people are allowed to have bad days.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, this guy might be having a bad day because I've had bad days. Yeah. I remember one time I was flipping out on this guy at the kiosk at the Sprint store because he wouldn't give me what I want. I'm like, you know what? I should kick your, and it escalated to, and I got my daughter with me. I brought her home. And I said, you know what? That's not who I am. So I went back the next day and I told him, I said, you know what? That's not me. And I apologized to him. I apologized to the manager. I said, you know what? I don't know what else I can do to kind of correct that situation, but I'm going to work on some things. And me and that guy became buddies. And every time he see me, he'd be like, are you still kicking butt? Or are you calming down? It was like our inside joke after a while.
That's
But
funny.
that self-awareness, that is critical.
Yeah.
It's extremely critical. And it's, like I said, it's a work in progress every day. Yeah. So be patient with other people. Understand that they can have bad days, just like you can have a bad day. And hopefully that one moment isn't going to define their total actions in life. And that goes with, especially with our law enforcement, these guys got to make split decisions in a moment. And people always see the one bad decision or the one decision that they just had to make. And maybe it was the right one, maybe it was the wrong one, but it shouldn't define who they are or the content of that person's character. So.
Good stuff, buddy. Before I let you go, can you give us a bump? This is DeJuan Curse, and you're listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast.
Oh, yeah. This is DeJuan Curse, and you're listening to the Southern Fried Philosophy Podcast with some great folks here. And make sure you guys tune in often and share with your friends. Perfect.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, gents. You guys take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
too.
DeJuan.
All right. See you guys.
See you. All right, man. That is a wealth of knowledge. I think it's inspired me just to, again, just be patient with people. That's a huge thing.
Yep.
Have dialogue and get to know people.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, next week we have Peggy No Stevens. She is the first female master bourbon taster. Maybe she'll give us some pointers on how to taste our bourbon. I'm really excited about that. Author of Which Fork Do I Use With My Bourbon? Don't forget free lunch coffee. Use promo code Southern Fried at checkout at www.freelunchcoffee.com. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, keep looking up.
Okay, mics are muted and we're clear. Just going through the slide with the theme music. That was some good content, though. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
You're listening to the SFP Radio Network.